Would an Assassin's Creed game in the World Wars work? I posted a short recently and a lot of people disagreed with me when I said that it wouldn't. So I thought I would actually explore this topic further and see if it would. Before we get into the video, I would really appreciate it if you could hit like, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe with those notifications turned on. And with that being said, let's discuss whether Assassin's Creed in World War I or World War II would work. First things first, let's explore the elephant in the room. Assassin's Creed has already gone to the World War period, first in Assassin's Creed Unity, with its World War II segment set in Nazi-occupied Paris. In this glitch segment, you climb the Eiffel Tower, shoot off some planes, and then dive off it. And that's it. Sure, you assassinate a couple guards along the way, but other than that, this segment is nothing more than a climbing puzzle. A lot of people point to this segment as an example of how a World War II setting could work in Assassin's Creed, but I don't really see how you can possibly think that. None of the elements or aspects that make a great Assassin's Creed game are here, apart from decent parkour, and that's purely because of the Unity engine. Other than that, the aesthetics are fine enough, but everything else about the mission is pretty forgettable and boring. And the stuff that's not forgettable and boring, such as shooting down a plane with a machine gun, isn't really in line with what Assassin's Creed is, has ever been, or ever should be. Also, if you've played this segment, you know that the machine gun mechanics are shit and not fun at all. I wouldn't really point to Unity's World War segment as an example of how it can be done well. That being said, Assassin's Creed Syndicate took it to another level, creating a full open world World War I segment in London. And I've got to say, this did it a lot better. This time you undertook the memories of Lydia Fry as she uncovered spies in London and worked alongside Winston Churchill to take them down. But to be honest, I've never really seen this segment as World War I specific. That might sound a bit strange, so let me explain. Assassin's Creed Syndicate itself takes place only about 50 years before World War I begins. And this segment has a pretty unchanged map in comparison to the main game. The gameplay as well is essentially the same as it is in Syndicate's main story. So to make a game like this would just be remaking Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And regardless of what you think on that, it doesn't really seem to make sense. Now this segment is pretty decent, and I think it shows that the aesthetics of World War I especially can definitely work in the Assassin's Creed franchise. But again, I think pointing to it as an example of how a World War Assassin's Creed would be great doesn't really hold up. And I think that's because when people think of a World War Assassin's Creed, they don't think of it just in London. They think about fighting on the front lines in the war. But once again, that goes back to the whole shooting down planes with machine guns. That gameplay formula does not work in Assassin's Creed. That gameplay formula doesn't represent what Assassin's Creed is, and that gameplay formula will never represent what Assassin's Creed is. There are more than enough third-person shooters in the world. There are more than enough World War II or World War I shooters in the world. When you play an Assassin's Creed game, you get a very unique experience, and placing that within the confines of the front lines of a war, in my opinion, rarely works. I think the worst parts of Assassin's Creed 3 are in every single pitch battle, and that would be made even worse with the machine guns and the slow war of attrition that World War I was. I mean, armies would spend days at a time whittling down yards of land. World War I was not an exciting thing. World War II was not an exciting thing. They were slow, they were tedious, they were in these massive, open, empty battlefields. So from that perspective, there's absolutely no possibility for an open world in one of these games. On top of that, the introduction of machine guns, in my opinion, would be a terrible thing for the Assassin's Creed franchise. Even looking at the guns in Unity, they made combat at times insufferable. And if machine guns were present, I can't help but think that the vast majority of players would be very confused as to why this random person was running around with a small blade. However, I do see a vision, a perspective where from a gameplay point of view, this could work. And that is in a very linear, very constrained set of black box missions in which you have to infiltrate battlefield and significant war moments to assassinate key leaders and figures. I think that would be a very interesting way to give a new perspective on these battles. By assassinating the leaders, you could disrupt the hierarchies of the military and you could end the battles, while slipping out of view as the army celebrates. However, again, this wouldn't lend itself at all to an open world structure, instead probably being more akin to Hitman. And whilst I think it would be very fun, I don't think it would be enough content to justify a fully fledged Assassin's Creed game. On top of that, I see major problems in story. Within the canon of Assassin's Creed, all of the world leaders at this time were Templars. They conspired to create World War II as to control the masses. And also, I think, as a method of population control, which means that every nation in a World War I or World War II game would be presented as Templars, which I don't necessarily think would be a very good idea, as it would provide some very bad optics. Imagine the uproar from the average British citizen as you assassinate Winston Churchill. I just don't see it working without major controversy, and I think it would cause Ubisoft to really constrain the writing team. Before I conclude, I'd also like to talk about another option. There is a game called The Saboteur, a game set in Nazi-occupied France, in which you go around stealthily freeing districts from Nazi control. It's an open-world stealth game set in Nazi-occupied France, and it is phenomenal. It is ridiculously enjoyable, the open world is incredibly immersive. The stealth, while a little bit dated, is still very fun, and you do feel like this liberator of the city. However, this game already exists. I feel like when people bring up The Saboteur as an example of how Assassin's Creed in World War II could work, it feels as if they just want The Saboteur. Now, Assassin's Creed has already copied the styles of many games recently, and I don't particularly want the series to steal another idea. But this wouldn't just be stealing an idea or a concept like they did with The Witcher. This would essentially just be copying over the game and adding a hood. Like, there's not a lot of other options in which a Saboteur-like Assassin's Creed game could be set. Yes, The Saboteur is a fantastic stealth open world game set in Nazi-occupied France with parkour and combat, so go play The Saboteur. To make an Assassin's Creed game that was set in Nazi-occupied France in which you free the city with parkour, stealth and combat would literally just be copying a game that already exists. It may seem at this point like I think there is no chance of any Assassin's Creed game working in the World War settings. However, that's not quite true. Like I said before, I could see a very constrained linear version of Assassin's Creed working in these settings. And I do believe there's a way of pulling this off without causing too many story concerns, too many controversies, too much messing with canon and lore. And that is a Chronicles game. The Chronicles games have been up and down, however, their gameplay is fundamentally solid and fun. And on top of that, their stories are usually pretty uninteresting and inoffensive. The focus of the Chronicle games is really the linear gameplay, and I think it would work perfectly in a World War I setting. I could see a situation where you infiltrate some major governmental building and assassinate a key leader and figure, and you don't have to worry about the story implications, the historical implications, or the, machine gun implications. I doubt it's what a lot of people want, but personally, I enjoy some of the Chronicles games, and I think if Assassin's Creed were going to explore these periods, it's the best, if not the only way to do it. But of course, as always, I'm sure plenty of people will disagree with me because everyone on this website seems to absolutely despise all of my opinions. Regardless, before you comment telling me how I've never played an Assassin's Creed game before, please just do hit like or dislike, either way. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe with post notifications turned on so I can make you even angrier in future. But please do comment down below and give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, give me your ideas for a game set in these periods. I'd be really interested to see them and see if something else would work. With all that being said, I've been Joe, aka Founder Scarab. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.